Fulfilling our obligation to the Children's Act and the South African Constitution, the Department of Social Development protects all children within our borders and protects their rights. By providing assistance, advice and support facilities to strengthen and build the resilience of families, child-headed households and communities, DSD's Child Care and Protection System safeguards and promotes the well-being of all our children. And by ensuring access to child and youth care centers, we help to provide a safe environment and protection and care for children who are living and working on the streets. In our quest to give children a stable family life with permanence and the benefits provided by parenting, we ensure that the rights of children come first by providing adoption services, which include support and advice to people adopting children and advice to people who want to care for a child, and by providing child support grants and foster child grants to foster families who do not have reasonable means to provide adequate care and support. These grants remain the biggest contribution to the child care system. All children have the right to education, and through supporting ECDs, the Department of Social Development ensures that learning begins in early childhood, a most important period in a child's development. We are committed to see that rights are guaranteed to all children living in South Africa and are obligated to make sure that these rights apply equally to migrant children. And these rights are guaranteed even when children are in conflict with the law, where we ensure that they are treated as children by law. If a person in South Africa is under the age of 18, the Department of Social Development protects their rights as a child.
Good morning, Sanbonani, Dumelang, Absheni. Welcome to today's second session, which is the day 2 of our World Population Day commemoration that we are hosting as the Department of Social Development in partnership with our counterpart, the United Nations Population Fund. It is indeed a great honor and a privilege to be standing before you today. I am Tabani Buthelezi from the National Department of Social Development. I am the Acting Deputy Director General for the Strategy and Organizational Transformation, in which is the home of this very important unit called the Population Unit. Lately here with us in our studios, and some are joining us online. And you all recall the theme, and I'm sure you enjoyed the session yesterday, and everything was perfect. At least I could be able to multitask because I was behind my desk in the offices in Pretoria, but I could also participate. And that's how this COVID has introduced us to be in many other spaces. I was there virtually, and I could pick up every other thing. So Jack, I could see at some point you were doing like your break dancing, and I could follow all the engagements as they were proceeding today, yesterday rather. So I will want to start by requesting that Mrs. Mano, Mrs. Golden to kindly welcome us, and also at the high level just give us a reflection on the summaries in terms of the outputs of how day 1 went. She is joining us virtually, and I could see her on both at the front and also at the back. Hi, Mano, and please welcome, and I want to give you an opportunity to welcome as well as to give us a reflection in terms of summary and recapping for the day 2. Over to you, Mano.
Thank you so much, Program Director. And good morning, everyone. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, all the participants. Good morning to the youth. All protocol observed. Good morning to everyone and welcome to day 2. Yesterday was an incredibly powerful day with amazingly powerful speeches and insights into the topic that we are examining, which is rights and choices for the demographic dividend. So we very, I'll very quickly recap. What is the demographic dividend? Well, when mortality rates decrease, but fertility rates still take time to catch up, then we have what is called a huge population of young people, very young children, that as they move up through the age cohorts become a bulge in the working age groups of the population. And this larger working population could confer a dividend, which could make very significant strides in alleviating poverty within the country, as it has happened in many countries historically. But as one of the speakers so eloquently said yesterday, the demographic dividend is not a demographic gift. In order for us to reap its benefits, we need to create the conditions to reap those benefits. And what are those conditions? That is exactly what we looked at yesterday. We examined the kinds of investments that we need to make in order for us to reap the demographic dividend. And these investments are principally in the areas of health, education, employment creation, nutrition, sexual reproductive health and rights, and health broader. And I think all the speakers, did not disagree that we need to ensure that everyone has the right to bodily autonomy, to access to reproductive health services and resources, to enable reproductive rights choices for all, and leave no one behind. The rights of women and youths in the future. To be able to access, and everybody needs to be able to access these services in safety, even during pandemics. South Africa's population is a youthful population. The largest proportion of the population are the youth. This was emphasized by every speaker. And all the speakers also talked about the fact that sexual reproductive health and rights must be realized for everyone. And it is a factor that will determine and will very significantly affect the realization of the demographic dividend. The youth must be able to make informed choices about their lives, their bodies, their well-being. This is a precondition for the demographic dividend, and it must be at the forefront of a development agenda. Investments need to be made in health, sexual reproductive health and rights services within the context. The health service needs to have professional, skilled people who offer these services and information in a non-judgmental way, so that the person that is accessing the service can make a choice. And that is the essence of our choice. Give them the information, offer the service. Don't impose any morality or judgment. We also looked at the importance of statistics and why accurate data is so important, and it has to underpin all our plans. The picture was also given for the national South Africa, which showed a particular trend. But when you dig down deeper into the provinces, you begin to see the diversity and the complexity. And as you go lower to the local level, there will be other factors that will need to be taken into account, which is why data is so important. We looked at the National Youth Policy, which was approved by Cabinet in October 2020. This policy was done in consultation with the youth and with the UNFPA. Africa has a youthful population, and South Africa's population, the youthful population, comprises more than a third of its population. And education starts in childhood. So the kinds of investments that need to be made is as early as possible to invest in children, because we will then reap the benefits as they get older and progress in their education. But education is a process. Developing skills takes time. And we have to account for this within the demographic dividend, because we will not have these skills overnight, and yet we have these challenges that need to be solved in a very short space of time. Curricula have to be reviewed. What is going to be needed for the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 years? What are the skills that are going to be required in these terms? What are the sectors of the economy that will be able to drive growth within these terms? And we have to, at every given point, when we make these investments, we have to ensure that women and girls have opportunities, that they are empowered, that they are given positions where they are able to take these opportunities and be put into leadership positions and be able to participate equally within all sectors of the economy and be given the choice. So it's about giving information, giving opportunities, but also allowing people to have that ability to choose and to go into those fields and to be empowered and supported within those fields. What are the new technologies that will be required to mitigate climate change? These are all questions that the education system will also have to account for, because investments needs to be made, and in those technologies and those skills would need to be developed. The kinds of infrastructure, energy sources, power that will be appropriate to the future. These are the kinds of skills that we will need to invest going forward. In terms of economic transformation, we need to grow the economy by creating jobs. It is in the past we have seen the economy has grown, but it has largely been jobless growth. But we need to absorb the people who are unemployed. Over the COVID period, we saw yesterday, the speakers showed us the data that unemployment has, the numbers have actually deteriorated over the past year, during the COVID year, during the lockdowns. Part of economic transformation will be fostering entrepreneurship. We need to link this to the outcomes and the opportunities offered by the fourth industrial revolution. We need to link entrepreneurship also to global climate change, and we have to support the youth and women and girls in particular to fully participate in the economy of the country. The speakers also spoke at length about the kinds of investments that are needed in healthcare, sexual reproductive health and rights services that are going to be needed. They all emphasized, all the speakers, that this will be key to realizing the demographic dividend. We have to look at all these investments through the lens of feminism to make the correct investments so that women and girls and gender issues are always taken on board and accounted for. We saw how COVID, for example, prevented access to sexual reproductive health and rights services and contraception, and how gender-based violence and femicide spiked. 120,000 cases were reported in the first 3 months of lockdown. Also, in terms of the investments, we need to look at social cohesion and governance, supporting youth in confronting discrimination at every level, whether it be race, class, religion, sexuality, sexual orientation. We need to make sure that the youth have the wherewithal and the support to confront these issues and to fight them where they arise. The levels of inequality are very high, as we all know. And this is part of the problem of social cohesion. It does not foster social cohesion when the levels of inequality are so incredibly high. Governance, as one of the speakers also very eloquently said, holds everything together. Without governance, things fall apart. At every stage of all these investments, we must ask the question, how are women and girls being empowered? How are they being given opportunities to fulfill their true potential? Are we looking at that in every aspect of the investments that we make. And we need to do this going forward so that we can realize the demographic dividend. Government needs to create enabling conditions. We need to be able to provide information, the services, and the resources, and the skilled people. And this needs to be provided in a way that people then who access and who need these services can make the decisions about what is right for them. No one must impose their morality and their judgments on people. There is no one-size-fits-all solution. We must just provide information and we must just provide the services. People must be allowed to make the decisions and the choices for their well-being according to their conditions and what is right for them. And the diversity and complexity of South Africa means that we cannot have one-size-fits-all solutions. The diversity and complexity means that people need the information and the services, and they must make choices. And I think this is the essence of what people emphasized in the discussions yesterday. And thank you so much, Program Director. I tried in a very short space of time to give you a synopsis of what were the discussions yesterday. And I hope I've managed in the short time that I've had. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manu, for that reflection. And indeed, I think it was a very quite reflective one. And it did cover all the aspects and the areas in terms of the program from yesterday. And I can fully agree with you in some of your reflections, including from the inputs we received through the mouth of the acting DG, the address by the minister, the presentations as well from the presidents in terms of the youth. And of course, it was in line with our theme. And today, of course, the three speakers as well.
I'll join on the other link. Thank you.
We thank you, Manu. We are still a participant and in many other aspects. So any other link, you will still be with us. And we thank you for that. We will proceed and move to the essence of today's agenda in terms of receiving the speakers. I did indicate to you, you've got quite good three eminent speakers with me, and that will be followed by a different session where we'll be having a panel discussion where it will have a youth panel and be able to contribute towards this. And how I wish Emmanuel was still with us today so that he hears exactly what will be the inputs that coming from the youth, but I'm sure he's still probably logged in and following us virtually as we proceed with today's engagement. The theme for this session in terms of the three speakers, of course, they've got different inputs they'll be making, but it's all about how do we govern the demographic governance, and they will see the different inputs. We'll look at issues of gender equality and empowerment of girls and young women, which, Jack, I think for me is still a build-up from yesterday's. It's more about embellishing and take home exactly what were the issues that came. Dr. Dlamini Nolwazi, our counterpart from KZN, will then share with us that case study of the KZN in terms of the dividend, the demographic dividend as it's there. And I hope it's not been affected by the recent violent unrest, Jack. So there's never been any looting within the dividend, I hope, from the KZN. And finally, we'll receive an input in terms of conflict with sexuality education from our colleague from the Department of Basic Education. So, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to welcome on stage first our first contributor